Good afternoon, dear participants to the forum, guests. It is my great pleasure to welcome you to the third international forum, The Arctic is the Territory of Dialogue. Let me introduce the panelists of the panel session, the President of the Russian Federation, the President of the Board of Trustees of Russian Geographical Society, Vladimir Putin. The President of the Republic of Finland, Mr. Niinistö. The President of the Republic of Iceland, Mr. Grimson. Chair of the Arctic Council's senior Arctic officials, the President of the Canadian Northern Economic Development Agency, Mr. Borby. Ladies and gentlemen, I give the floor to the President of the Russian Federation, Chair of the Board of Trustees of the Russian Geographical Society, Vladimir Vladimirovich Putin. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends. It is my true pleasure to welcome participants and guests to the third International Arctic Forum. The Arctic is the territory of dialogue. I would like to extend my special gratitude to the President of the Republic of Finland, Mr. Sauli Niinistö, who came for the forum for the first time. And I thank our traditional guest, the President of Iceland, Mr. Grimson. This time we gathered in a rather symbolic place in the city of Salihard, the only city in the world which is located exactly at the latitude of the Arctic Circle. We have just discussed with our colleagues the facts about the foundation of this city, and I asked my colleagues for detailed information. This city was founded in 1595 by Russian Cossacks. It used to be named Obdorsk, and consequently it was renamed into Salihard. It played an essential role in developing the Russian Arctic, Northern Urals, and Western Siberia. It should be noted that over recent decades, over recent years, the city has not only been developing at a rapid pace, it was renovated completely. It's a completely different city. If you visited it 10 years ago and compare it to the modern Salihard, you would see that these two cities are completely different. The role it is playing in the modern Russia is no less important. Salihard is the capital of one of the key economic centers of our country, Yamal-Nenets Autonomous District. It implements a wide range of the most major industrial and infrastructure projects. Some of them are related to developing the Arctic territories and their rich natural resources. At the last forum, we stated that the Arctic, in fact, opens a new history in its page, which can be named the era of industrial breakthrough, of a rapid economic and infrastructure development. The Arctic regions of Russia witness active search for and development of new oil and gas deposits, as well as other mineral resources and raw materials. They built major transport, energy objects, and revived the northern sea routes. Work in severe Arctic environment is extremely difficult. It requires both significant funding and truly unique technological solutions. It is clear for us that the priority, the key principle for developing the Arctic should be nature preservation, as well as the balance between economic activities and the presence of a man and wildlife conservation. All the more it is important when we speak about the Arctic, with its fragile, vulnerable ecosystems and sensitive climate, which to a large extent affects the environmental well-being of our planet. Today, the Arctic, as never before, needs special focus and careful handling. Russia, almost one-third of which is located in the Far East, realizes its responsibility for preserving environmental sustainability of the region. Many of those present here are well aware of the strategic action plan to preserve the environment of the Arctic. It was used as a basis for our state program for social and economic development of the Russian Arctic up to 2020. The main provisions of our state policy in the Arctic also envisage special regimes for resource management. So the right to produce oil in ice conditions will be granted only to those companies who practice the most cutting-edge technologies and which are able to fund their operations. We are also going to continue our large-scale project, which is entitled Overall Cleanup of the Arctic. We have completely cleaned the Alexander Land. This year we're starting work on Graham Bell Islands. The next are the islands Goffman, Heisa, Rudolf, and Guker. Ladies and gentlemen, I draw your attention to the fact in 2011-2013, 1,400,000,000 rubles were allocated out of the federal budget. These efforts are underway. Russian regions which are located at higher latitudes have also launched their programs. So, for example, here on Yamal, they are cleaning the Belly Island, which would help us to bring back to nature over 500 hectares of unique lands. We hope that all our northern regions will be engaged in such relevant initiatives. I would also like to note that we seek to extend the network of specially protected natural areas in the Arctic. Now they are covering around 6% of the Russian Arctic, which is 322,000 square kilometers. We plan to increase their area at least several times. Also, efforts will be intensified to preserve wildlife inhabiting this region. In the first place, rare species of whales and dolphins, relic birds. A lot is done for the main symbol of the Arctic, polar bear. We stand ready to be actively engaged in establishing the common network for monitoring over its population, which is under development by the Arctic Council. No less attention should be paid by walruses inhabiting the Laptev Sea. Their population is shrinking. We hope that we'll be able to stabilize the situation through special programs to study this species, which we intend to implement. The efficiency of achieving these goals related to the environmental well-being of the Arctic will depend on the coordinated actions by the whole international community. Russia, the major Arctic power, is ready for close partnership within the Arctic Council, Global Environmental Fund, and UNEP. In the first place, by developing cutting-edge technologies and shaping common environmental standards. I would like to remind you that in 2008, the Arctic Five, including Russia, put forward a declaration which paved the way for international legal framework for responsible management of northern sea spaces. Today, I am ready to reiterate our commitment to its principles. Russia stands ready to do its utmost so that the Arctic in practice becomes the territory for partnership, cooperation and dialogue for states and public at large. I would like once again to thank all participants to the forum for constructive discussions of issues related to our common region, the Arctic. Thank you. I give the floor to the President of Republic of Finland, Mr. Niinistö.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I'm delighted to be here in Salehard today for the first time. It has been fascinating for me to see the wild nature of Siberia. I have also experienced the warm and welcoming Russian hospitality. I would like to thank the Russian government and the Russian Geographical Society for taking the initiative and convening this forum. Let us make it a milestone event in our joint efforts to preserve Arctic nature through international cooperation. We living in North know the Arctic, that it is a demanding environment. Through centuries, we learned not only to survive, but also to thrive in these conditions. This has required cooperation, creativity, and adventurous nature. Great Arctic explorers like Georgy Sedov and Mikhail Lomonosov personify these features. They were the true heroes of the North. Many great explorers have, through centuries, dreamed of sailing through the Northern Sea route, but they were not able to do it. William Barents in the 16th century and Vitus Bering in the 19th century amongst them. The first person to actually accomplish the feat was Mr. Adolf Erik Nordenskjöld, a Finn. He made the trip in 1878-79 on a now famous bark called Vega. It was a remarkable achievement. Today, those famous explorers would be amazed by the changes in natural conditions. The Northern Sea route, Severny Morskui Put, is now open more than 6 months in a year. Last year, there were already more than 40 vessels passing the route. The Russian Federation has already made steps to improve the infrastructure along the route. A lot of work remains to be done to improve safety, but it is slowly becoming a more viable option, enabling faster transport and creating economic opportunities. While oil and gas were not the objects of the early explorers, they have now become the central prize in the Arctic. Rich mineral resources also play a major economic role in the North. In terms of economic geography, the world is turning upside down. The future is up here in the North. The changing Arctic brings about great economic possibilities, but also challenges and threats. A heavy burden of responsibility lies on the shoulders of the Arctic nations and modern-day explorers. We have to take care of the extremely sensitive environment while taking advantage of the economic opportunities. This must also be done in a way that respects the rights of the indigenous people living in these regions. To protect the Arctic nature, we must develop a shared vision on how to use the Arctic resources in a sustainable manner. A good starting point could be a comprehensive survey carried out jointly of the region's natural resources and biological diversity. Once factual and scientific baselines are established, governments can take better informed decisions. Success in the Arctic calls for long-term cooperation between both public authorities and private sector at the regional, national, and international level. The dialogue between governments and the scientific community on climate change needs also to be deepened. We know that climate change is twice as rapid in the Arctic as elsewhere. However, more accurate information is needed on the consequences of the climate change, such as risks to biodiversity or black carbon or methane emissions. In addition, We need to further develop methods for environmental impact assessment and risk management, specifically for Arctic conditions. It would be useful to look at the ESPO Convention, regulating cross-border effects of human activity on the environment in the Arctic context. It could contribute to more effective international cooperation. With this in mind, we hope that Russia would soon ratify the ESPO Convention. Ladies and gentlemen, like Russia or Iceland, Finland is an Arctic country. Always has been and always will be. Of all the people living above the 60th parallel north, every third person is a Finn. As times are changing, our Arctic role is evolving as well. We have put our focus on Arctic know-how, or snow-how, as we call it. We aim to be providers of the first-class technological solutions to several Arctic challenges. One area of excellence is Arctic maritime technology and ice management. This is quite natural. Since the 19th century, we have had no other choice than look for innovative solutions to enable year-round navigation in harsh northern circumstances. Our point of departure is that Arctic technology has to be clean technology by definition. Arctic environment will not survive with dirty technology. At the same time, we need state-of-the-art technology to protect the vulnerable Arctic. We must have tools both to prevent damages and take care of their consequences. For example, there is simply no room for large-scale accidents in the Arctic waters. Dear friends, дорогие друзья, we only realize our Arctic potential together through intensive and constructive cooperation by the Arctic states. The role of the Arctic Council is therefore essential. It is the preeminent forum to discuss Arctic issues. We welcome the strengthening of the Council, including adding an economic and business agenda to its scope of activities. In our view, the Council would deserve to become a strong actor. I hope we will work together towards this goal. Some important results have achieved already. The Arctic Council has concluded a search and rescue agreement. It is now finalizing plans for a joint response to oil spills. This development is most welcome. Finland has developed advanced technology and equipment for oil spill recovery and is more than happy to share its knowledge and experience. In addition to multilateral cooperation, Finland seeks to enhance its Arctic policies through bilateral partnerships. Our first bilateral Arctic partnership was concluded with Russia, with you. In addition to sectoral cooperation, we organize together annual Arctic seminars. They bring our experts, regional bodies, and business people to the same table. I use this occasion to call upon Russian and Finnish businesses and scientists to actively develop common projects in the Arctic. I believe Arctic cooperation has the potential to become one of the key sectors in our bilateral relations. I consider to be privileged to be here today among so many esteemed Arctic experts, friends and neighbors. I wish this conference will help us to continue and deepen our Arctic dialogue to the benefit of our countries and the Arctic region as a whole. Budem работать вместе. Thank you. Спасибо за внимание.
The floor is given to President of the Republic of Iceland, Mr. Grimson.
President of Russia, Vladimir Putin, President of Finland, Sauli Niinisto, distinguished participants, dear friends, it is indeed a great pleasure to return to Jámánenec, where during my state visit in 2002, the first made by a president of Iceland to Russia, we discussed the emergence of the Arctic as a new focus of regional and international cooperation. And subsequently, Governor Yuri Neolov visited Iceland and became our partner in advancing the newly established Northern Research Forum, which furthered a comprehensive dialogue among scientists, researchers, students, elected representatives, and indigenous leaders across the Arctic region. When the Russian Geographical Society brought its second international conference, the Arctic Territorial Dialogue, to Arkhangelsk 2 years ago, I emphasized in my address that whereas the Arctic had for centuries remained unknown, mysterious, and isolated, and throughout the Cold War, one of the most militarized regions of the world, and towards the end of the 20th century became an arena for constructive cooperation among the 8 Arctic states. The early decades of the 21st century are, however, now making the Arctic into a new global playing field where countries in Asia, as well as continental European states, have arrived to advance their scientific, economic, and political dialogue and interests. And a few months ago, the ministerial meeting of the Arctic Council in Kiruna confirmed this transformation. So now, in the coming years, more than 10 of the largest economies in the world will, in one way or another, be represented at the Arctic table. And as we move forward with these new observer states and new partners, and with ever more wide-ranging issues coming up on the Arctic agenda, it is of the utmost importance to maintain, despite this transformation, the essence and the established qualities of our Arctic cooperation, which both the Arctic Council and also a multitude of other Arctic organizations, institutes, and associations have in the last 10 to 15 years helped to develop. 3 of these are especially relevant. First, to maintain the culture of an open dialogue and informal style of deliberation, and also the enduring personal friendships and mutual respect, which has made the Arctic Council and other Arctic venues indeed so successful in recent years. When new partners arrive on the scene, perhaps used to more formalized and bureaucratic diplomatic encounters, it is important that they adjust to our productive and practical Arctic culture of achievements. Second, the preeminent role of science and research in Arctic policymaking must be maintained, because knowledge based on expert advice and scientific projects has been the foundation of our constructive decisions and also the guiding principle of making Arctic cooperation so successful. The research for the facts and the scientific evidence has been more important in our Arctic success than displays of political and economic power. And third, in the dialogue within the Arctic Council, indigenous people, their organizations and representatives have been a significant part of the process, emphasizing an open and democratic approach to our common Arctic future. No other international organization among states has in recent years been so respectful of the indigenous peoples, their traditions and interests. These three dimensions have been of key importance in the success of Arctic cooperation and must therefore be maintained effectively in the coming years. They are, to some extent, what I have decided to call the Arctic House rules, which I am sure our new visitors and partners will gladly respect. Russia has, since the foundation of the Arctic Council, provided both constructive and positive leadership within the family of Arctic nations. A vision perhaps inspired by the importance of the North to the Russian people, but also by the long Russian history of Arctic exploration and scientific expeditions. The Russian Geographical Society is a noble bearer of this tradition and has in recent years brought us together in an intensive dialogue, highlighting the importance of preserving the Arctic environment, calling attention to crucial issues created by the increasing economic activity, commercial traffic, and resource utilization within the Arctic region. And I therefore take this opportunity here today to thank Russia, the Geographical Society, and especially President Vladimir Putin for their positive engagement and constructive Arctic leadership in recent years. It has been of great significance to witness President Putin's commitment expressed by his presence at the previous Arctic conferences in Moscow and Arkhangelsk, and now again by his speech on the environmental importance of the Arctic here today. It provides an example which hopefully will be followed at the highest level, both in the United States and Canada, in Washington and Ottawa, especially since now those two countries are the present and the next chair of the Arctic Council. It has been particularly important for my country, Iceland, to share in this new Arctic partnership with Russia, both due to our long-standing friendship celebrated this year in the form of the 70th anniversary of the establishment of our diplomatic relations, but also by the significance of various mutual scientific and research projects, but also since our political and economic dialogue has increasingly highlighted the utilization of clean energy resources, particularly geothermal and hydro, in the Arctic regions of Russia. Because contrary to the prevailing image in the global media dominated by oil and gas, the Arctic has probably one of the largest resources of clean energy available anywhere in the world. Hydro, wind, geothermal, tidal energy, and other forms. An Icelandic participation in clean energy projects in Greenland and the feasibility studies for a new sea cable from Iceland to the United Kingdom, helping to stabilize the UK energy system in the coming decades, are also significant indicators of the new clean energy relevance of the Arctic and the northern regions. And when discussing the preservation of the sensitive Arctic environment, it is important to emphasize and understand the clean energy potential of the Arctic in Alaska, in northern Canada, in Greenland, Iceland, Norway, Russia, and other Arctic countries. And not let the debate on the Arctic be dominated by disputes over the drilling of oil and gas only. And similarly, as we try to map out how to monitor the effect of the melting sea ice and the retreating glaciers on the water systems, the ocean resources, the fish stocks, the plants, and the vegetation, we can draw on our long-standing mutual scientific cooperation. The scientists in my country, as well as research institutions and universities, have for decades monitored the implication of the accelerating melting of our glaciers, the largest in Europe, as well as the movement of fish stocks in the North Atlantic Ocean, both around Iceland and between us and the Greenland, the Faroe Islands, and Norway. The recent dispute over mackerel fishing should be a wake-up call for our awareness of how the warming of the Atlantic and the Arctic Oceans will change and is changing the migration patterns of various fish stocks, bringing some of them to our waters, but making others depart to even colder environments. And it is important that science and research should be the guide to successful and sustainable fisheries rather than the old-fashioned exercises in power politics and commercial retaliation over fishing disputes. Because in the oceans, on the land, in the ice, and the glaciers, we see everywhere how the Arctic environment is changing faster than anyone could have predicted 5 or 10 years ago. And furthermore, we are witnessing, as all of us know, an equally rapid economic transformation of the Arctic. Last month, for example, Bremen Port, they're the second largest harbor authority in Germany, made an agreement with the Icelandic engineering firm Epla and the local authorities in northeastern Iceland, confirming their commitment to explore the possibility of building a global Arctic harbor in Finnafjörður in the northeastern part of my country, thus beginning the preparations for the coming traffic along the northern sea route. And this year, we also granted offshore licenses to research for oil in what is known as the Dragon area, which is shared by Iceland and Norway, and the bidders including both Arctic and international companies. Last summer, Iceland became the first country to offer regular passenger flights and cargo shipping to all the Arctic countries through the operations of Icelandair and the shipping companies Eimskip and Samskip. And next month, the CEO of COSCO, the largest shipping company in China, will explain at the new Arctic Circle Assembly in Reykjavik how China is already preparing for a new era in global shipping when the melting of the Arctic sea ice will connect Asia in a new way to America and Europe. These are but a few examples illustrating how we are now facing a new reality in the Arctic and why it is of utmost importance to integrate our commitment to sustainable Arctic environmental protection into every deliberation and decision-making, making the traditional Arctic respect for the environment the cornerstone of all our endeavors. And in this respect, I thank the Russian Geographical Society and President Putin for highlighting exactly these concerns at the dialogue here in Saligard. And I invite all of you to continue our discussions and cooperation by participating next month in the first assembly of the Arctic Circle, which will take place in the capital of my country. Founded in partnership with my good friend and Arctic leader Artur Siliganov, and with strong support from the Russian Geographical Society and other Russian partners. There, we will be able to bring forward the important messages from Saligard, and also to inform those from other parts of the world who have newly taken an interest in the Arctic, that respect for the environment is an important Arctic heritage, brought to us by the people who have for centuries, even for thousands of years, lived in harmony with the Arctic environment and its resources, maintaining traditions, customs, and lifestyles by honoring the beauty and the contrast of the Arctic regions, and also by teaching each and every new generation how nature can indeed be our friend and our partner if we respect its forces and its essence. That is the vision which must guide all Arctic cooperation in the years to come. Thank you very much.
The floor is given to the chair of the Arctic Council, senior Arctic officials, Mr. Bobby.
President Putin, President Niemisto, President Grimson, ministers, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon, bon après-midi, dobrý den. I would like to begin by thanking Sergei Shoigu and the Russian Geographical Society for organizing this forum and for giving me the opportunity to speak today. It is a great pleasure to visit Salahard and to stand here on the Arctic Circle. Although the circumpolar region differs greatly in climate and landscape, Salahard reminds me very much of certain areas of Canada's north. And Canada, too, I might add, has a community that's situated on the Arctic Circle, a much smaller one. It's a hunting and fishing hamlet of 800 people called Repulse Bay in Nunavut. I also want to bring warm greetings on behalf of my minister, the Honorable Leona Aglukak, Canada's Minister for the Arctic Council and the current chair of the Arctic Council. The appointment of Minister Aglukak to this role, an Inuk born and raised in Canada's north, underlines the commitment that Prime Minister Stephen Harper and the Government of Canada places on the unique knowledge and experience that people of the North can bring to this dialogue. From its diverse peoples to its vast and unique environment, the Arctic is undergoing a time of change and transformation. This change brings certain challenges, but it also brings great opportunities. Opportunities to build sustainable and healthy communities, and to see the North realize its true potential as a prosperous and thriving region. Some may even say that we are sitting on the precipice of change, that the decisions we make now and the actions we take will define the future of the region. That is why a clearly articulated vision for the Arctic is so important, one that ensures the well-being and prosperity of the people living in the North through dynamic economic growth and trade, vibrant communities, and a healthy environment. This is without question an exciting time for the North. Over the past 2 days, we've heard interesting and thought-provoking discussions related to the environmental issues facing the Arctic region, from human health and safety to legal regulation and governance to climate change, pollution, and development. This scientific understanding, coupled with the important traditional knowledge gathered over the generations by local people living in the North, helps communities continue to make adaptive decisions to respond to the changing world. And it helps them consider new ways to promote and achieve sustainable economic development. I have personally found this forum to be very useful. It has further demonstrated to me how important it is to bring Arctic stakeholders together to discuss issues of relevance and importance to Northerners. And I am honored to speak to you today as the chair of the Arctic Council, senior Arctic officials, to provide Canada's vision for the Council and to highlight some of the key priority initiatives that are being undertaken by the Council during our 2-year chairmanship. A term which began at the Arctic Council ministerial meeting this past May in Kiruna, when we assumed the chairmanship from Sweden. Now, I should mention that experiences gained through my other roles as president of the Canadian Northern Economic Development Agency and as the Canadian co-chair of the Arctic and North Working Group of the Canada-Russia Intergovernmental Economic Commission, of course, have also helped me shape my approach to the Council and to Arctic cooperation. Leading the Canadian Northern Economic Development Agency, which works with local communities across Canada's 3 territories to support the development of a diversified, sustainable, and dynamic economy, has enabled me to gain a deep understanding of the importance of sustainable economic development in Canada's north. And this holds true for the whole Arctic region. As well, co-leading the Arctic and North Working Group has impressed upon me the importance of bilateral collaboration on issues of common concern. During its meeting in Moscow this June, Canada and Russia discussed a number of areas of potential cooperation, including Arctic science, cold weather technology, and northern transportation technology and services. I met with my Russian counterpart just a few days ago in Moscow to discuss next steps for the working group, and I'm confident that we'll be able to contribute to the economic development of northern regions and to a stronger Canada-Russia-Arctic relations. Turning now to the Arctic Council, I must say that just as this is an exciting time for transformation for the Arctic region, it is also an exciting time in the evolution of the Council. As the leading body for international cooperation on Arctic issues, a primary focus of the Council is on environmental, social, and economic aspects of sustainable development in the Arctic region. The Council is unique in that it is made up of the 8 Arctic states, Canada, the Kingdom of Denmark, Finland, Iceland, Norway, Russia, Sweden, and the United States, and the 6 permanent participant organizations that represent Indigenous people throughout the North: the Aleut International Association, Arctic Athabascan Council, Gwich'in Council International, Inuit Circumpolar Council, the Russian Association of Indigenous Peoples of the North, and the Sami Council. These organizations are involved in all aspects of the Council's negotiations and decisions and make valuable contributions to its activities and projects. The Council simply could not do what it does today without all these voices at the table. When the Council was established in Canada back in 1996, it was focused on scientific assessments bringing together exciting and existing, I should say, research and analyzing that research to prepare assessment reports on key issues of relevance to the North. Now we see a council that is evolving. In addition to undertaking more forward-looking long-term assessments, it is increasingly becoming action-oriented and influencing policy development across various regulatory levels. 2 legally binding agreements amongst Arctic states, one on search and rescue in 2011 and one on oil spill preparedness and response in 2013, have now been negotiated under the auspices of the Council. The valuable contributions of the Russian Federation in co-chairing both of these negotiations cannot be without mention. As chair of the Arctic Council's senior Arctic officials, my role is to work closely with the senior Arctic officials from the 8 Arctic states and the heads of the 6 Indigenous permanent participant organizations to guide the implementation of the Council's work and activities. During my tenure, I want the Council to continue to take action on Arctic priorities and to achieve concrete results, results that make a real difference to the lives of the people of the North. In addition to continuing the recent policy-making trend, strengthening the Arctic Council is in all aspects, and this includes efficiency, improving efficiency, enhancing communications, promoting cooperation with other multilateral fora, increasing youth engagement, and enhancing the capacity of permanent participants to continue to fully participate in the Council. These are also key priorities for Canada. Canada was the first chair of the Arctic Council from 1996 to 1998 and is chairing again the second time from 2013 to 2015. This year marks therefore a major milestone in the history of the Council, as we have now entered the second cycle of chairmanships, with each Arctic state now having had a turn at the helm. I think we can all agree that a lot has been accomplished over the past 16 years. But at the same time, there is still much work to be done. Reflecting the messages Canada has heard when it undertook consultations on its chairmanship priorities, we are putting Northerners first. The overarching theme is development for the people of the North, with a focus on responsible Arctic resource development, safe Arctic shipping, and sustainable circumpolar communities. Overall, there are 11 key initiatives that are being pursued during Canada's chairmanship. Although all are important, in the interest of time, I would like to provide you with an overview of a few of them, with the first being an issue that is very important to the North, economic growth. There are many businesses and investment opportunities across the Arctic, and as such, the business community is increasingly looking to the region to build stronger and more diversified commercial relationships and to seize opportunities to create prosperity for northern communities. There is also a great deal of interest within the Council to increase the focus of its work on sustainable economic development. This is why ministers in Kiruna established a new task force chaired by Canada with Russia, Iceland, and Finland as co-leads that is working with business and industry to create a circumpolar business forum. The goals of the forum include bringing circumpolar business perspectives to the work of the Council, advancing Arctic to Arctic business interests, sharing best practices, and engaging in deeper cooperation. The task force has already begun the process of bringing together Arctic states and permanent participants to discuss how we can best engage with the business community on this initiative. Work is progressing well, and the task force will meet in St. Petersburg in early October. While ambitious, the intention is to launch the forum in late January at the Northern Lights Trade Show in Ottawa, Canada. Another issue that strikes a chord with many when we're talking about increased oil and gas development is the prevention of oil pollution. In the wake of the oil spill disaster in the Gulf of Mexico in 2010 and the projected rise in oil and gas development in the Arctic region over the next coming decades, the issue of spill prevention, preparedness, and response in the Arctic is very relevant. It is important that Arctic states take the necessary measures to protect the Arctic marine environment, local communities, and the traditional livelihoods of Northerners from any possible environmental impacts associated with an oil spill. This is why, during Sweden's chairmanship, Arctic states signed the legally binding agreement on cooperation on marine oil pollution preparedness and response in the Arctic, which lays out the basics for cooperation and assistance in responding to oil pollution incidents in the region. Building on this agreement and the Council's past work during Canada's chairmanship, a new task force, co-chaired by the Russian Federation and Norway, will develop an Arctic state action plan to address marine oil spill prevention. This initiative recognizes that shared challenges and responsibilities of all circumpolar states to ensure the responsible and sustainable development of Arctic resources. Just as there will be increased oil and gas activity in the Arctic in coming years, shipping activity, which is already happening in the region, will continue to grow. As a result, the possibility of shipping accidents will become a greater reality. The implementation of stringent international shipping standards would enhance safety and navigation and protection of the environment in support of international trade and sustainable development in the North. And as you know, an international polar code for the Arctic Ocean is being negotiated within the International Maritime Organization. During Canada's chairmanship, Arctic Council states will continue to work together to encourage the IMO's efforts to develop a strong mandatory polar code. In parallel, we will develop new guidelines for cruise ship operations in Arctic waters. As clear as it is that there are growing industrial opportunities in the Arctic, there are also growing environmental challenges. Not the least of them is climate change. The Arctic is already facing rapid changes as its climate and physical environment, with widespread effects for northern communities and ecosystems. Short-lived climate pollutants, such as black carbon and methane, are contributing to warmer temperatures and can also cause local health problems. To address this issue, a new task force will develop arrangements to achieve greater black carbon and methane emission reductions. I encourage all Arctic states to contribute to this task force, given the benefits of reducing short-lived climate pollutants for public health and for the climate. The Council's new work to develop tools that enable public and private sector decision makers to plan for adaptation to a changing climate and to socioeconomic conditions in the North also are important elements of our climate change activities. Another important global environmental challenge that also presents itself in the Arctic is biodiversity loss. Many Arctic migratory bird species are threatened by overharvest and habitat alteration that occurs outside of the Arctic. To help address this issue, the Arctic Council will continue to pursue cooperation among Arctic and non-Arctic states to support the conservation of migratory birds on which Northerners rely. The Council will work to map migration routes for key species and engage with countries along migratory routes to develop conservation strategies. The Russian Federation joins Canada and Norway in leading this project. Much of the Council's work on climate change, pollution, and biodiversity is reliant on collective scientific research. While Arctic states have promoted scientific collaboration over the years, for example, during International Polar Year, more can be done. Such collaboration particularly is important at a time of increasing change in the Arctic and increasing demand for research funding. This is why a new task force will work to better strengthen scientific cooperation among Arctic states, and this is also co-led by the Russian Federation. In addition to the above activities, the Council will also develop mental wellness strategies, promote traditional ways of life of northern communities, and recommend ways to better incorporate traditional and local knowledge into its activities. And of course, there are many other ongoing projects, including in environmental and biodiversity monitoring. All of this work would not be possible without the support of the Arctic Council states and all the permanent participants. And here in Salahard today, I would like to especially thank the Russian Federation for its strong support for the Council's program during Canada's chairmanship. I am especially pleased that the Russian Federation will be co-leading many initiatives which address issues that matter to Northerners and that will have a direct impact on their lives. In closing, I'd like to offer my sincere thanks to the other Arctic states and the permanent participants for their support. And I'm very much looking forward to working with them during Canada's chairmanship to achieve the Council's objectives for the North. On behalf of Minister Aglukak, the Government of Canada, and myself, we extend our warmest welcome to Arctic Council delegates to meetings in Canada's Northern Territories over the next 2 years. We will be honored to highlight Canada's dynamic North and showcase its many cultures and its stories, starting in Whitehorse, Yukon, this October 21st to 23rd. By building on our collective experience and knowledge, the Council is playing a significant role in advancing strong, healthy, sustainable, and vibrant communities in the Arctic region. Together, I am confident we can seize the many opportunities that change will bring. Thank you, merci, masicho, miigwech, kuyanamik, spasiba.
Уважаемый Владимир Владимирович,
Dear Vladimir Vladimirovich, dear Mr. Minister, Mr. Crimson, dear guests, dear participants, I'm happy to welcome you at the third International Forum, the Arctic Territorial Dialogue. On behalf of the Russian Geographical Society, which initiated this work, we are pleased to see the great interest from hundreds of Russian foreign scientists, business community, and media to this forum. The participants of the forum grow and its geography expand. Vladimir Vladimirovich has mentioned the place we have gathered all together. Let me add that in Salihard, and to be precise, in Obdorsk, there was a famous fair visited by people from all over Russia and abroad. To a certain extent, our forum maintains this tradition and represents an intellectual fair. It is a platform that gives an opportunity to exchange assessments, giving rise to innovative projects and represent the opinion of the public to the government and business. The topic of today's forum, environmental safety, is particularly relevant to that extent. Environmental safety, biodiversity, climate change are the most burning issues of the region. Let me note that all of them are historically in the focus of the attention of the Russian Geographical Society. Annually, we allocate a number of sectoral research grants. We train young experts for the far north. Activists from our regional branches are actively participating in this work. A separate area of our work is awareness raising regarding the Arctic region and its heroes and the unique environment in the Arctic region. This task is addressed within the framework of creating scientific documentaries and radio programs. The Arctic is ushering a new era of industrial exploration against the backdrop of new climate conditions. Thus, as no other region, it requires a balanced approach that hinges upon practical and real scientific experience. We know what the results of irrational economic activity could be. The Russian Geographical Society, for a couple of years, has been eliminating so-called accumulated environmental damage, together with the Ministry of Natural Resources and public organizations. We minimize the damage inflicted on the fragile environment of the far north. But, of course, we are not limited to the territories that Vladimir Vladimirovich has just mentioned. We are aiming to take care of the territories all along the Northern Sea route, including the New Siberian Islands, where a number of our Arctic projects are being implemented. The first one has been implementing for already 3 years, and it is designed to comprehensively explore the climate as well as the stocks of animals. These are our living there. That's our major task. This information regarding the scientific grounds for the development of specially preserved natural areas is very important for their monitoring. We have now launched the second project, the restoration of the Tem airfield. It is the backbone for the development of transport infrastructure in the Arctic region, and of course it will serve science as the base for Arctic expeditions and scientific research. A separate area of work of the Russian Geographical Society is the work with the youth, bringing up the generation that will take the baton in the Arctic. The Society, together with the Federal Service for Hydrometeorology, is implementing the project of so-called floating universities. These are 2 big vessels that would bring up experts and would collect all necessary scientific data. The program of the Arctic Floating University is carried out on the scientific and research vessel Professor Molchanov. As of today, the unique vessel in the Northern Europe, combining a unique laboratory and practical base for training relevant experts. In 2013, the second expedition took place, within the framework of which young meteorologists, oceanologists, and hydrologists were trained, and we managed to collect data regarding the modern processes of atmosphere circulation in the Arctic and changes of the environment, of the marine environment. The second educational center is a Far Eastern Floating University, located on our own vessel of the Russian Geographical Society, Professor Khlustin. The exposition is devoted to the exploration of the environment and climatic changes in the eastern part of the Arctic. The scientists are equipped with the cutting-edge equipment, including the remotely operated underwater vehicle MAX 300. In the conclusion, a couple of words about the preservation of rare animals, which are the top of the environmental pyramid of the Arctic, because they are also in the focus of the attention of the Russian Geographical Society. For a number of years, we've been carrying out scientific projects on studying white seals and polar bears. We have created the complete picture of life of white seals of the Okhotsk Sea. Now we will focus on the groups of the white sea, which are finding themselves in less comfortable conditions. Together with the Council for Sea Mammals, we are planning to develop recommendations on reducing man-made load from tourists and shipping and navigation. Together with the Council, we will continue our research on polar bears. The ice cover in the Arctic is reducing and certain feeding problems arise. Scientists are yet to find out how bears would behave when they are void of the natural habitat. We need to find out how to help them prevent the inevitable confrontation with a human being. A separate attention would be paid to the Chukotka population of the polar bear, which is less studied, which means it is more vulnerable. The protection of separate types of species is impossible without preserving their habitat. Against the backdrop of the growing industrial activity in the Arctic, we need to ensure the development of specially preserved natural areas, including maritime national parks. Environmental Commission of the Russian Geographical Society is ready to do everything at stake to address this task, which is fundamental for the well-being of our future generations. Dear friends, environmental safety in the Arctic requires huge investments and new technologies, as well as concerted, coordinated position of all the sides. Dear participants, to sum up the results of our work, I would like to give the floor to Vladimir Putin. Thank you very much.
I would like to make my closing remarks sitting. I would like to once again to thank my friends, presidents of Iceland and Finland, our colleague from Canada, for making time despite their busy schedules and were able to come here to the far north of Russia. It is the 66th parallel of our country, and as I said earlier, 1/3 of Russian territory is located in the Far East. So that is why for Russia, our efforts in the Arctic Council, as well as our efforts related to the Arctic and Northern Sea route, the work in the Arctic in general is not only of economic but also of humanitarian value. This region of our country is home to a great number of small-numbered and indigenous peoples. This region concentrates huge interests, economic, political, humanitarian ones. That is why it is of extreme importance for us to join our efforts for efficient work here in this region. It goes without saying that the climate is changing. It is not contested by anyone today. The fact is important, not the reasons why it is happening. And it is clear that the shipping in the northern latitudes can last for even 100 of days and 150 days. New regions become available for navigation. My colleagues and I said earlier that the Arctic is a very vulnerable region in terms of preserving the economic balance. We need to maintain this balance. That is why we need to be cautious when undertaking any activities in this region. In this regard, we are interested in the opinions by our partners, not only regional powers, of all those who is interested in the sound management of these territories. We have discussed protection of wildlife and economic activities in respecting legitimate rights of indigenous peoples. And it wouldn't be fair not to say a couple of words about the incident which took place on our platform Trirazlomnaya. I'm talking about the attempt to kidnap this platform by Greenpeace representatives. Mass media is discussing it actively. It would be better for the representatives of this organization to be present in this audience and to express their views on the opinion on the issues we are discussing. Here they could have claimed their considerations, their requirements. We're not shying away from this. That is why we are gathering such fora to discuss all these issues. I do not know the details, but it's clear that they are not pirates, but formally they tried to kidnap the platform. Our law enforcement agencies, they were unaware of who was going to do this. And given what has happened in Kenya, everything can happen. We do not know anything about these perpetrators. It is clear that these people violated international law norms. Humanity tries to use nature to ensure its safety increasingly. So, going forward, first they just collected mushrooms, then they started to produce minerals and other. Can we stop these activities? No, in no way. It cannot be stopped. We need just to do this in a sound manner to minimize damage to the environment. Is it possible or not? Well, in general, maybe today it is hard to achieve, but we need to strive to achieve this goal. I believe we would be successful in achieving it. Hydrocarbons are produced in the whole world, offshore and onshore. We're well aware about the shale gas by hydrofracking production. we know that in the places where it is produced, the citizens do not have any clean water any longer. It's a huge environmental problem. When producing hydrocarbons, people always face similar issues. Both working onshore and offshore, we have two components which can pose threat. I mean, the transport. Unfortunately, we often witness various incidents with the participation of transport, or maybe at places of production venues. I'm not going to repeat all those present here. The experts are well aware of the incidents. In 1988, in the Northern Sea, the platform was operated by one of the American companies. An incident took place. By mistake of the operator, there was a flame, and over 160 persons died on this platform. Yet another, a recent incident, environmental incident in the Gulf of Mexico, a huge amount of oil, there was a huge spill of oil. It's a huge environmental damage. So at that time there were submarine operations. Maybe some operator made a mistake, some technological disruption could have taken place, and this poses a threat to the well-being of persons. Is it worth it? So that is why I would like to reiterate, we are committed to working with all our partners, with all environmental organizations, and hopefully our efforts, our work will be arranged in a civilized manner. We intend not only to hear, but to listen to the opinions of each other. We seek to take measures on environmental protection. As for on offshore working operations, no organization working in various parts of our country, now we are starting working in the Arctic, not a single one of them has had any significant incidents, and hopefully there will be no in the future. It's because we are using cutting-edge technologies. As for continuing our efforts within the framework of the Russian Geographical Society, I would like to once again thank you all. I would like to assure you that we will take note of all issues related to environmental protection. We are very grateful to you for participating in the efforts of Russian Geographical Society, especially on Arctic matters, which, as I said earlier, is very vulnerable and requires special focus both on the part of governments and public at large. I cannot but agree with my colleague from Iceland. We are looking forward to engaging top officials from other countries. Hopefully they will pay increased focus to the issues we are discussing here. Thank you very much. I hope that next time we will discuss as relevant issues as today.